Today we're at Scrap Digital ID, where people have come together to talk against digital ID in the UK. Some people believe it's about convenience and security. Other people believe it totally goes against our privacy. So today I'm hitting the streets to ask one simple question. What do you think about digital ID? Have you heard about digital ID before today?
Yes, I have.
What's your thoughts on it?
It sounds all very welcoming at first. I feel after 2 or 3 years, it will turn into a capture and we will be caught and we will be caged, basically. And as individuals, we won't have our freedoms that we used to have. You won't be able to spend certain money on certain requirements that you want if you exceed those limitations. There might be limitations on travel. There might be limitations on the type of food that you want to eat. There might be limitations on the type of medication that you want. There'd be too many limitations.
And what brought you down here today?
There are certain people since COVID came along that have been fighting against the narrative, which has been basic propaganda a lot of the time. And I think most people here have done a lot of research. They haven't followed the narrative. They thought there's something going on here. I need to look at it myself. So basically, you have a difference between people who follow the narrative, which is basically quite lazy, and you've got those people who will research, think there's something going on here, I need to look at it. When we saw, for example, with COVID and the lockdowns, I think everyone thought the lockdowns were working at first. But then when it came to the second one, we had to do it. But the third one, I thought was completely unnecessary. I thought something is definitely going on here. Why is the government doing this when it's against all common sense? And they did say at COVID, things will not return back to normal. Sometimes you don't want things to return to normal. You do want to change, but you want to change in the appropriate way for the better, not for the worse. And you don't want government overreach.
And in one sentence, what brings you out here today?
To support and to bring digital ID in respect of scrapping it to the nation.
Do you think digital ID is a good thing or a bad thing?
It's a thing that can be used for good or bad. I think how it's been proposed is a bad thing. I think if we use it for the people, actually, we all have our own individual ID and we have our rights over those IDs, then it could be a good thing. I mean, we're talking about technology, right? We're talking about the ability to interact. The government want to make it something that they take our choice away from the interactions, our medical, our banks, our taxes. And if they can all communicate, they'll be able to switch this off, right? And it's happening already. And they're just like making us almost like walking us down the path in our minds. We're doing it, we're not doing it, it's choice, it's not choice. The actual platform itself isn't the bad thing. It's how the platform will be used. I'm a co-founder of Together. We say no to digital ID, but recognising that there already is the digital ID. What we're saying is we need a digital bill of rights. We need the ability to be able to switch off and switch on at our will, not theirs.
Do you trust that the government will handle something like this?
The state, the government, absolutely not. Whoever's in, absolutely not. This is meant to be a private thing that we choose and we don't choose, and the government should have nothing to do with it whatsoever. We need young people like yourselves to actually start recognising what's going on around them, because they're the future, you're the future, and the grandchildren are the future, and we want them walking into a future that's worth something for their freedom, not for a cage. And this is a big cage right now. And we didn't realise we were walking into it until a few years ago. We all know what it was, COVID, right? But able to do all this at the flick of a button, at the flick of a... Nah, no more.
How do you think digital ID can affect your day-to-day life?
Well, I think it will affect it badly. The constant surveillance, for a start, them constantly knowing where I am, what I'm doing, what I'm saying, who I'm meeting. I'm a pensioner, so once we have the CBDC, I won't be able to access my pension unless I do exactly as the government tells me to do, which so far I haven't. They'll just lead to a digital prison, as on my T-shirt. I'm very much against it. We already have forms of ID. We've got passports, we've got driving licenses. If people want a paper copy because they don't have those things, that's fine. But we don't need more ID, and we certainly don't need digital ID. The only people who need digital ID are the people who want to track us. I'm not prepared to be tracked.
Do you think the younger generation view this differently?
They do. I teach English as a second language. A lot of 15, 16-year-olds, their favorite word is convenient. Everything is really convenient. And I always say to them, that's the most dangerous word in the English language. Oh, I can just pay with my phone. It's so convenient. I can just get into a nightclub. It's so convenient. So I'm trying to plant a few seeds and tell them that it's convenient now, but it won't be in a couple of years' time. They are very much for doing everything on their phone and thinking also that the government loves them, which is something I tell them is not true.
So what do you think the world will look like as soon as, or if, digital ID is implemented?
Yeah, it's if, it's not when or as soon as. We will make sure it doesn't happen. We're not having it.
But like, what do you think?
If we
Yeah.
did. I've been doing some legal work for a political party which shall be unnamed. The person running what we're doing is Polish, and she says this will become Soviet style. She can see exactly what the government's trying to do because she lived through it as a girl. That's how it will become. 1984, Soviet style, not a nice place.
Do you think this is about convenience or control?
This is definitely about control. What they're doing is they're trying to sell it to people as convenience. But actually, once something like this is implemented, they'll be able to link it to perhaps a central digital currency. And then if you perhaps say things or you have a disagreement in what they consider to be right and you think it's wrong, they have the control then to perhaps stop your bank account. It could also be linked possibly to the carbon credits, which would mean that you're given a certain amount of credits in terms of how many you can use each year and when you can fly. And it is actually linked to the Sustainable Development Goals and Agenda 2030 and all these things link it. So I think this is very much about control.
Can you tell us a little bit more about Agenda 2030?
So Agenda 2030 is from the World Economic Forum and it's about Sustainable Development Goals. And it's a list of ideals, if you like, that are set by people who are the elites, I would call them, who are in power, who I haven't voted for. And it is about changing the whole world order. It is about imposing control on ordinary humans.
Where do you think this could lead in the next 5 to 10 years?
Everything you do will be linked to this. And if you fall foul of it, you will lose everything. You can lose everything.
If digital ID became mandatory tomorrow, what would you do?
Well, I'm really fortunate that I've got some really, really good friends. I've been members of Stand in the Park and I'm connected to Together. And I think there'd be a lot of people who would be standing up and protesting and not complying. I think the ordinary people sometimes don't realise how much power they really have. We're kind of almost fooled into believing that we must do as we're told, we mustn't question things. But actually, it's really important to spread the word that we do have a lot of power and we can question things and we need to stand up for things that are wrong. And this is wrong.
Do you think this is a step towards a surveillance society?
Of course it is, 100%. We've got facial recognition rollout across the UK. I've just found out this week, there's a Tesco's near me. You can't go in unless it scans your face and the door's open to let you in. We have to give our biometrics now to leave the country, and they want to bring in digital ID. And I believe eventually social credit system like they've got in China. So I'm completely against it. Because if you do something the government deems wrong, like you post something online, you don't like the current leader, they could shut down your bank account because everything will be connected digitally. And I also don't agree with us all being tracked and monitored 24/7, which is what is happening. They're going to roll out smart cities and they're rolling out 15-minute cities as well.
What's your thoughts on the smart cities? What's your thoughts on the 15-minute cities as well?
I don't want to live in a smart city or a 15-minute city. What they've done is they've run down the police to the point where we've got so much crime now, especially where I live. They're going to give you the solution. Oh, we're putting in all cameras and everybody's going to be tracked so we can deal with the crime. We've got more surveillance in this country than most countries in the world, and we've got higher crime. So it's not working, obviously. So more surveillance and more facial recognition is not going to stop crime. All it's for is to take our data so they can build the social credit system with the data they're capturing now.
Do you think people are overreacting maybe, or, not taking it serious enough?
I think people are underreacting. I think people don't do their research. They don't realise what's been happening for the last sort of 5 to 6 years. They want to make the UK the biggest 5G infrastructure in the world. I've seen the government documents for it. So they want to make us the central point of surveillance. And I think people are walking around, they're just giving their biometrics. Oh, we're just going to scan my face to get in a shop. And the next thing will be, if you don't do that, you're not going to be able to buy food and you're not going to be able to participate in society. And I think a lot of people are just sleepwalking into it.
What would you say to somebody that supports digital ID?
I have spoken to people that support digital ID. They were telling me they think it's a good thing because when they've been abroad, there's a country there from Malaysia where they've got digital ID. So if they want to use, like, get some healthcare services, they're already registered and they've been able to get like healthcare services. But then I said to them then, but what if they deny you that healthcare service for whatever reason? And then they said to me, oh yeah, when we were in Singapore, there were people that didn't agree with the government that had their services switched off because they've already got that system in place. So I said, well, what if they do that to you? They might not do that to you today, but they might well do that to you in the future. So it's not a really good idea, is it? People don't think it's going to happen to them for some weird reason. They say, oh yeah, well, if you've got nothing to hide, it doesn't matter about what you've got to hide. It's what the government or the totalitarian state will deem what they think is acceptable at the time. So we've been investigating the cell tower rollout across the UK. So they've put in cell towers in all our residential areas with no proper consultation with the public. And these cell towers have got safety certificates that have got limited company names on that are not registered at Companies House. So we've now today got 1,300 downloaded off all the council websites that cannot ensure public safety with a company name that is not currently registered. So we've just put them through with no due diligence and there's been no proper public consultation. The big cell towers they've put in reduce your property by 20% and they do give off radiation and the public are completely unaware of what's going on. We need to stand together to stop this now because I don't want my children living on this planet when I die having to scan, to get in a shop, to go on holiday. Your biometrics are your God-given personal humanity and we shouldn't have to use that to conduct ourselves in our society.
Clearly, this is a topic that people feel extremely passionate about, but I want to hear from you. Whether you agree, disagree, make sure you drop your opinion in the comment section below. Also, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to see more videos like this, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.